Okay, I'm detailing a sculpt. I think this is going to be pretty boring. It's just detail stuff, so it's all up close. It's little things. You're not going to see big changes to this piece. I've got some detail in there already. I have my iPad right here. I'm going to pull up different skin textures. It's going to be real hard for you guys to see them, but some folks are interested, it seems. So I am leaving it there. So here it comes. Since I'm in here, I might as well share. And I think the iPad is kind of the big deal for this, because doing the texturing doesn't really take that long, but figuring out what to do and having it work is the big deal. I'm putting in face to make sure I'm getting face textures. I'm just looking through and looking through. The elderly, it actually helps to watch the elderly, because they, you know, look at pictures of them because they have great wrinkles, and wrinkles are texture. The ZBrush stuff is really nice too. Okay. Well, crummy. Just lost my window. Oh, this is why I don't want to do these. Hello, Spike. That is my cat. All right, but now I've got a good image up, and I'm just looking at this texture right in here. You know, I guess it's kind of tough for you to see, but that's really what I'm going for right there. And it's subtle, you know, it's you're not going to see a lot of it here. But I'm looking at this under eye, and I'm looking at my under eye on this side, and I want to make those work a little bit more. And this is, you know, this says detailing, but really I'm still putting in forms, you know. Technically, detailing is just like skin and that kind of stuff, but I'm still figuring out where the fat is, and just, it's a level of detail. Sure, this is, I could call this done, and it's probably haunt ready, but I'm trying to push myself to be a better sculptor, and the way that I do that is by, you know, working hard and not calling stuff done that I could go a little further on. I might as well go a little further. All right, so I'm just gouging in my gouges, my some extra lines here, and they're looking a little tool marky. And what I mean is they're like trenches. So to smooth out in this clay, I'm actually using a little bit of hand lotion and on a brush, and that hand lotion just melts all those hard edges. It's going to soften this right up. And where it was kind of a gouge before, now it's a nice fine wrinkle, you know, and I've already liked that a little bit better. It's a small subtle change, and that's what a lot of these are going to be. Eventually, I'll use a smaller tool, and I won't clean out, and I'll just have real fine lines there. And I'm going to see if I want to mirror that on this side. I think I do. I do have very different eyes in, and that's okay. I wanted that asymmetry, but I don't want lazy asymmetry. I just had some specific things. Cleaning up the eye socket right now. As a wearable mask, it'll be really nice to have an easy to define cutting edge where I know where I'm cutting out. And I'll also pack that with some clay so it doesn't dig into the corners of the eye. Okay, I just want to pull this down. This is a great run of fat right here, but I want to eat into that a little bit, just like this, just like it does over here on the iPad. I guess I should give, you know, the people's pictures I pull up some kind of sculpting credit, but you know, you're always, as an artist, looking at inspiration, and this is inspiration. That wrinkle, I think she's trying to highlight some rosacea or something, but I'm using that texture that they probably don't want. I do want it in my sculpt. I want interest in this sculpt. I want features that make it interesting. Okay, let me see if I can let you guys see that. See how that's very rough. It's very gouged. It's kind of hard to see what it's doing, but it is just smoothing out those lines that I just put in. Smoothing them out. I'm just going to have to sort of hug the camera a little bit to be close enough to you guys to see stuff. And I'm scrolling through my face pictures here. And I'm looking for, you know, a good forehead. So I'm doing almost as much referencing as I am sculpting. Typing in forehead. There you go. See what I get. Yeah, these are boring foreheads. They're not wrinkly. They're not, there's not a lot going on. There's some skin diseases. That's kind of gross. But I really want the wrinkles. I was looking for forehead, but I have found a great eye picture. This right here. And there's just this great tightness around here. And I'm going to try and emulate that on this side over here. Have to give myself a little more room to actually sculpt, guys. Okay, so I put on those little worms, and they've made that nice little wrinkle in between them. And that's a part of what I wanted. I also have some fat to add, which is going to be another little worm. That's going to go right on here. Really kind of looking at the eye pit, which is an area I might have just made up, but it's where these wrinkles meet these wrinkles. There's this great little hole, you know, right here. There's this little hole area, and I'm going to try and emulate that. But I've got to spread out the things that I put down because their edges right now are very hard. I want those edges to soften out and kind of spread out over the sculpt and not just be in that one area. This is little stuff, but if this little stuff is what catches the eye, you know, then it's worth doing. All these little things together are what make this believable. You're narrowing the focus. Could I do this and not narrow the focus? Absolutely. But it would be, you know, it wouldn't be as nice as it could be. I want to complete this to the best of my ability. Within a reasonable amount of time. Could I putter on this for months and months? Absolutely. Have I got that kind of time? No, I don't. And some sculptors do that. I don't think that's winning. You know, if they can only do a sculpt every couple of years because of time, I don't know that that's not the kind of sculptor that I can be. So I'm going to be the kind of sculptor that I can be. I'll give this, I'll try and put, you know, 6 hours, 7 hours in this, maybe 8, but I don't have time to put in a week. A friend of mine put 80 hours in on one sculpt. Ooh, that doesn't even sound like fun. But I don't want these details to go away. I don't want to lose, you know, it's a compromise. Just by saying, I don't want to spend that kind of time, to a point, I'm saying I'm going to shortchange this sculpt. And that's probably not cool. All right, so now I've got some good wrinkles right here around this eye. Now I'm in water-based clay, so this clay is really soft. I can sneeze on this clay and have it, you know, change its shape a little bit. That might be an exaggeration, but it's not too much of one. I'm going to carry those worms up onto the eye a little bit. My picture doesn't have it, but I can see that it might do a little bit for the interior here, this whole inner arch area. There's just not a lot going on in it. So if I can add something that makes that area a little more worth having, great. And just these raised little worms that I then blend in is what I'm doing. I can see that I have one viewer, and that is about as interesting as I think this is. I'm also not really monitoring questions, and there's a very good chance that I'm going to delete this after a while on YouTube here, just because I think this is going to be a very boring video. I don't know how long it'll be, but I can't imagine watching this for that long. I kind of have to concentrate and look and see what's going on, so I don't even have a lot of time to say witty jokes. I've got to go look on, go look on my Google image search. I've got to, concentrate enough because I'm doing little tiny amounts of stuff, real small things. See, and this brush is even a little clunky for what I'm doing. So I have other brushes. I've got a fan brush, and I've got this slightly smaller blue brush that I also use. So I'm going to go with the blue brush again. All right, spread that out a little bit. Yeah, and now I've just got some bumps in there, but even that I can tell from looking in the camera, not with my eye, but in the camera, I can see the light. It tells me what the light's doing a little more. So I need to feather those out even more to make them seem like they're part of it, like they're coming out of it. I can carry that line that's in between them a little further back, and that'll imply that that is kind of going in to the head. A lot of little prep is going to happen kind of off camera. Just I had to knock the clay off this brush. That's all I was doing. So I just did just a real fine line with the tool to accentuate that, and I'm taking, you know, most of that away. A lot of this is doing just a little bit, taking it away, taking it away. Okay, I feel pretty good about that. And this is a more interesting area now because I did that work. I think it's kind of an interesting sculpt, but you know, you have to make it the best it can be. Now I'm looking in here, and in here I just see that this kind of nasolabial fold, the fat that makes the fold, one side of it, it's a little too harsh. So I'm going to tone it down up here. Which I don't know that you guys can see it. But that was just a little too full up there. I want to make it a little more subtle. All right, and now that I put a tool on it, I've got to smooth it out. Okay, that reads a little bit better. And I got to kind of think to myself, well, what's making it do that? You know, how come it was that puffy? And this isn't a fat character. I want these to be lines of tension, and too much what looks like fat in there is going to make it read not like tension. It'll read a little too differently. This curl here, that's pretty strong. I got to tone it down up on top. See how much light is hitting that? How much light is right here? I just want to tone that down a bit with my tool. All right, and I apologize, guys, because this is kind of boring. This is the minute stuff, but this is the stuff that takes your sculpt from being okay, and yeah, it's all right, to being, wow, that's an impressive creature. That's a nice sculpt. I'm trying to capture that. I'm trying to capture that monster. You know, get his essence in there. I'm etching a little bit of a line to make a difference here. You guys can see how that line pops, because now I'm not working with the clay as much as I'm working with light. Shadows are what I'm trying to create with my ridges, and highlights are what I'm trying to create with my other stuff. And you know, it's a good form. You know, I like it, but it's too heavy. There's too much going on it. And now I'm kind of pulling out all my tools over here just to find the ones I need. Story of my life. And here's the one that I need. This is going to just rake. And I'll get some back and forth lines, but it's going to smooth out what I've done. And then very easily, the hand lotion is going to make all those rake marks go away. It looks kind of like hair, actually, from the camera. I'm going to go ahead and rake what I have to rake over here to get it a little bit smoothed out. Sometimes you get dry clay on there and it boogers up. Just that's a little too, that was too much. That was too fat. Puffy is fat. And if something is too fat, you're just not as scared of it. Few people are afraid of penguins because it's that shape. That's not a scary shape. Angles are scarier than curves. So I'm trying to take some of the curve out of this. And I can use my rake to finish this line. There's a line that kind of goes right here. I can use it to highlight that line a little bit. But this is all detail, man. This is boring because you can't see a lot of what's going on. I wish that you could. And too even firm of a brush right now is going to make this read wrong. So I'm going in now with a little bit of hand lotion that I put on my plastic table cover. And I'm painting over what I just did with the rake. And that's making those raky lines go away. Yeah, and that reads nice. Okay, so I'm looking at the mouth right now, and this line that goes out this way, I think that's just too much of a curve. I think that line would read better and scarier if I could just straighten that out. Because that curve implies a flop. There's a flop in there. It's kind of jowly, and I don't want it to be jowly. And that probably happened, honestly, while I was, fixing the teeth, because I've messed with the teeth on this a lot. But squeezing that together, I think that helps a lot. I'm just moving clay around. I had to put down a little more hand lotion because I was running a little low. I made a tool mark over here. I'm going to smooth it out. And I haven't really even gotten much to detailing the skin and putting skin texture. And I played with it a bit yesterday, but not to any real degree. This line still is really round and bulbous, so I'm going to shave it down. I pushed it in so it doesn't curl, but it's still fatty. So I'm going to shave this down a bit. So there's a bit of strength in it. If that was a lump of fat like a flop ear, then there's not going to be any strength in it. And I want there to be strength in that. And I probably have to add some clay up top in order to make this angle work a bit. Detail stuff, boring stuff. I hate that if I could just have my eyes broadcast, you guys could see what I'm seeing. That's a little bit tough, though. I have people who have joined me. That's awesome. Maybe they want to talk. I'll make sure that my volume is up. It muted themselves, and that's okay. All right, so it looks like I put a lot of clay on here. At least it looks like that to me. You guys might not even tell a difference. But I only put it on here so I can shape this side. Okay. That is nice. Hand lotion smooths this out. And I know some of you guys can't see this. A lot of you guys can't see this. But it's detail. Some folks said they were interested, so I'm doing it. You get just some crud that, when I scrape clay off, it falls down into those teeth, and I want those teeth to be clean. I like the top teeth, but I am going to change the bottom teeth because there's not enough dynamicness in them. So I think they need a little something. I've just freed up the camera from the tripod. And here is the new line. Before it kind of curved out, it was curvy here, which did not look very good. This side is nice. It has a nice angle from cheekbone right down to the jaw. And this side I have all of this going on, which I wanted, which I like. I wanted that asymmetry, but I kind of missed that straight line from jaw to mouth, which implies strength. I think I've got it back enough. These are the teeth that I don't like. I've worked on these. They have different shapes. That kind of flares out. So does that one. I have some molars and some bicuspids. I put some little rips in the end of them. So those teeth I'm pretty happy with. But these teeth down here, they're still looking kind of like straws almost. So I'll have to pull up some lower teeth pictures. That's probably the next thing I'm going to work on. And so you know, this camera is about 20 inches away from the sculpt. Any closer and I wouldn't be able to sculpt. So I'm doing the best I can to show you what we have going. I'll pop over here once again to Google. And I'm going to do teeth. Bottom jaw teeth. And you can get some nasty pictures, you know, just medical stuff and ooey, ooey, ooh. But I'm kind of looking for a normal set just to get the tooth shape. What are the teeth doing? And, you know, people think that they know what things look like. And I'm not going to fool myself to think that I know what teeth look like. I want the picture. I want to learn. Okay, so now I'm looking at this, and I'll move it so hopefully you guys can kind of see some of what I'm seeing. So these two teeth are actually a little bit smaller than the two teeth on the outside. That's kind of neat. That's not something that I knew or expected or thought. I thought up top the middle two teeth are the biggest, so that's probably true on the bottom, but it's not. So I'm going to take these teeth down just a hair, and they're not, it's not a huge difference, but if you look at it, you can tell. And those two just have they're slightly bigger, and they also angle just a hair. Now those angle, and these two teeth are pointy. In this particular individual who's I pulled up, they're not that pointy. But what I am going to do is I had this tooth in here, and the root was in, but I just pulled it out. I'm going to flip it over so I get the point up as opposed to the flat part up. I'll do this, try to do the same thing to this one. Just pull it out, and you can see it's got a nice, well, it had a nice point on it, but it's a little broken. But I'm going to flip it over, point this end just enough to go in those gums. Pull down on that. And now that it's in, I can shape it a little more. I can cut it sharper, or I can do what I have to do to it. Because when I put them in, they're a little bit long. Another very interesting thing is that these two teeth stick way down. This is much lower. Both of these, there's more exposed tooth because of how the gum is. And that's a neat thing to see. these, it looks like I just have to round the tops a little bit more. Now, yeah, I was making a monster, but I have to make a monster that's believable. And the more I do these little details, the more work I do on making it look the way people see hundreds of teeth every day. You know, you might see 40 people any given day at work. All those 40 people have teeth. So you have in your mind a concept of what teeth look like, and it's pretty solid. Um, so if I'm having to reteach you what teeth look like because mine don't look right, then that's a little bit of a believability of my sculpt that goes away just because I didn't want to put in the effort. And that sucks. You know, an alien or something, you know, you have a little more leeway and a little more freedom. But this is, you know, it's kind of a very human character. I'm pushing on those to get that ridge a little bit different. Okay, I am much happier with those teeth now, but I still want to flatten out the tops because they're very, you know, you could land on here. Dink, you know, it's kind of squared off. So I'm just going to use something to push them. So those teeth look like they're biting sharp, not like pointy sharp, but they have an edge. I'm getting that edge through pushing those in. All right, I'm going to use the other side of this tool. It's a little wire loop tool. And I'm going to use it to just put a couple. Now that's not in here. I'm just putting a little couple creases, a little couple cracks. You know, this guy he might have chewed through his restraints a couple times. He kind of puts his teeth through hell because they're in his mouth and he ain't quite right. So his teeth is going to have some stress to them. Just like you distress a costume, I'm going to distress teeth. Now I want the lightest brush I have, which I've not known for my subtlety. So it's this big old boy here. I'm just going to brush those teeth down a little bit to get some of the marks off of them. And then I put brush marks in them, so I've got to drag my finger across to give them a bit of a polish. They should have a different texture than the skin, so I want them nice and smooth. Okay, and I'm looking on the camera, and you see how this just sticks out. That feels like it's a lump of clay that I just shoved on there. So I'm going to spin it and just blend that in. That's not something that I need a Google image search for. What I just need is to look at this and use my rake tool, smooth it out. You know, make this blend a little more natural, a little less stuck on. And what I did when I made this, I stuck a big ball on there for the jawbone. But skin wouldn't cling that tight to it. You know, skin is it might be, you know, a bone there with muscle attached to it or something, but skin isn't going to show that. Skin is going to cover that gap. And since I'm looking at the skin, he's not translucent. I want that to be just a smoother transition, less like a ball stuck on. All right, I'm actually looking at the camera on my screen. I'm not looking at the sculpt because my eyes looked at that same angle before and didn't see any problems. Well, these just end, don't they? You know, they're not subtle. They don't flow into the rest of the face. Bam, they were shoved on there, and that's where they stay. So I'm going to calm them down and make them a lot more subtle by blending them into the head. And once again, I'm just going to use my rake tool. And what that does is it's going to just take off just enough to make that blend happen. And I can run it this way and pull the high tops off of them. This guy I'm going to have to backfill a little bit and actually put some clay in there. But those look like little cigars that were just stuck on. So this would be a half mask. I'll probably do Velcro in the back to hold it on so it'll hold actor shape. I'm going to line it inside with fleece or felt so that it's not raw latex on the skin. That'll keep it to be a little bit more comfortable. All right, so hand lotion on a brush, and that's really going to help me smooth that out. And these blend a little bit more. That's even still, that's a little bit strong still. I should knock this down a little bit, and I may do that. This one has blended out nicely. Something here, and I think it's this underside more than the back end. Yeah, that's a lot more blending. That's a lot more gentle. It's a more subtle. Just sort of happens. So let's check the other side. The other side has a very different structure. You don't have that up there because I was going for something else. I'm happy with this. Yes, that's a ridge, but that's kind of a wrinkle from this brow pushing up causes all these wrinkles. I'm pretty happy with that. All right. So who is on here with you? I see your head. That is Kim. Hello, Kim. All right, take a little drink. Just got a hey text from Kim, or a message, I guess. So I'm looking in here. I'm going to actually pull you up so you can see it. I am looking at this crease. I don't think that's too strong. I was wondering if that was too strong. I don't think that it is. Here's where I altered for the eye some. And this line here is a little bit weird. It does a bit of a wave, and it should probably be a little straighter. I'm going to see if I can fix that. I don't know if I can without, well, of course I can. I could tear this apart and redo it. There is a limit to even what I will do to a sculpt because I'm pretty happy with this sculpt at this stage. But that line bugs me. And if I mold this sucker, that line's going to bug me forever. That's over here. So I'm just looking at that line. And I could add a little bit of clay to make it do that. Straighten it up some. Or I can just change the roundness of it. And by changing the roundness, work that one clean line. And I don't mind tool marks right now. I'm really just trying to change this from being so much of a squiggle to being a little more of a straight line to convey some strength. Get the fat out of it. Just getting the line a little bit right. I'm gonna say the same thing over and over again because what I'm doing is I'm doing the same thing over and over again. I'm smoothing out wrinkles. I'm altering form, but very subtly. And I think that feels a little bit stronger. How's it going, Jason? I think he just muted himself. Okay, good. Good to see you. All right, so looking at this, on this sculpt, I did not have anything in particular exactly what I was going to do. I had a general plan. I want it to be a person because I'm going to be able to make this into a clown. I'll be able to make this into a lunatic. So there isn't a, Michael Myers reference picture that I can pull up and look at to figure out if I'm on target. I kind of have to feel this one through. Now, of course, I'm using reference pictures, but it's all these little reference pictures, like I have a reference picture for this part of the eye. I have a reference picture for this part of the nose. So that is where this is kind of a tricky sculpt, because I don't know what it's going to look like at the end. But I need it to look believable, and that's what I'm working on right now is believability. Now these are subtle. I mean, these are harsh right here. You can see a lot of harsh light and shadow. I'm okay with that. I'm certainly okay with it being a little bit harsh, but I am toning it down some. And I can do a lot of toning down just with this brush. This is going to equalize those, because that hand lotion is going to turn some of this clay into mush, and that mush clay is going to settle into those cracks, calming down the area that I'm working on. Okay, so end of the nose is what I'm looking at right now, and I'm going to pull up old man noses because they have good texture. And it's crazy that there's all these pictures on Google image search of old dudes' noses, but there are actually plenty for me to look at here and choose from. And this guy right here is a very interesting looking face, so I may pull him up. I'm just going to look a little bit more. Here's Gary Oldman, so it read Oldman nose. I'm kind of looking just for the texture on these noses. Here's that guy I said had good texture. And I don't see a lot going on his nose. Great, great chin wrinkles. Look at that chin. Look at that chin. There's just so much going on in that chin. It's crazy. But I'm looking for a nose. You know what? I'm the reason it pulled up Gary Oldman. Old space man nose. All right, that actually gives me better results because I typed the right thing. Some of these noses are pretty darn extreme. I'm not going to zoom in on these because that's a little icky. Poor guy. That's got some lumps and bumps to it. probably more than I need. A lot of damaged noses. That's just not what I'm looking for right now. I'm not looking for paint, so I have to send color out of my brain. I'm looking for texture. And this is a pretty textured nose. This is extreme. I don't want all these, lumpy, wumpy warts and stuff. Um, but I do want some of those dots on there. And I want some of that on there. So I'm going to take a little bit of fresh clay and go back to my sculpt. I'm just going to put some dots of clay on. I'm not really blending them out right yet. I'm just putting on some lumps to change that even smoothness that I have. And they're not, right now they look kind of like spots or almost like scales, but they're not going to read that way when I am done. They're very much going to hopefully blend in and read like bumps. I don't want them all on the very end, so I'm going to carry a few off to the side. But only on one side of the nose, because again, I want that asymmetry, and you don't get skin conditions in an even manner. If they were symmetrical, then they'd be beauty spots, or people would like them. And I think too big of a brush is going to mash those too much and knock them around. So I'm going to put on a little bit of hand lotion with this fan brush and just kind of swirl in here so that the edges melt away, but I still get that texture. Pretty often as a sculptor, I will put one texture over the whole thing. And that's something I'm really trying to avoid right now. And that's why I'm giving him this lumpy nose. I'm trying to make his chin look different from his cheeks. That's something that has been lacking in my sculpture, and I'm trying to get better. The hand lotion, hey, that's awesome that I can actually see that question. The hand lotion melts the clay. Pretty much like on an oil-based clay, you might use lighter fluid as a solvent. I have found that hand lotion with lanolin or cocoa butter really melts this clay and makes things much more subtle. Great for refining wrinkles and painting in. Yeah, it's basically wet clay. This is actually just water-based clay. There's no glycerin in it, but actually the hand lotion soaks into the clay and it becomes almost wet clay. All right, so I've got those lumps and bumps up there now, and that's actually pretty nice. I'm getting close to what I see over there but I need pores now. So I'm going to find a tool that I can poke in here and do all these skin pores. Now I have this real little loop tool, and this is going to give me dots. This is going to give me dashes and not dots. I think that'll be okay. You know what? I can just drag a little bit. Once again, I swear there's stuff happening in here, but it's kind of hard for you guys to see. Let's see if I can take you out. And these little pricks, these little digs, I'm going to smooth them over too. I'm going to get the stuff out of my my loop tool, but I'm going to smooth them over too, so that I have these to be much more subtle. Right now they're almost like polka dots, and they're big. They're on the big side for pores, but I'm using that loop tool, and I'm okay with that. I'm going to get, here's my nasty pile of hand lotion. Here's the hand lotion that I'm using. Use it all the time to save my hands from plaster. Brand doesn't matter. And so I don't wipe them away and fill them in. I'm kind of jabbing at them. They're gonna knock down. They're gonna get a lot more subtle, but they're still there. And if they're not subtle enough, I just keep poking them. Okay. They don't make webcams with a zoom that I know of, or else I would just leave it up there and zoom the heck out of it. All right, so that's cool. I'm gonna kill that. I feel better about that nose. I like the way it blends down into the lip. I'm actually very happy with that. So I'm going to now look for this old guy with a great chin. So I'm going to refine my chin a little bit. Which will require a different search, of course. And this is, I apologize. Once again, this is kind of, there's some of the stuff you're just not going to be able to see. This is actually a high def webcam. I wouldn't even try this with my old one. I am looking to see good wrinkly chins. All right, refine my search a little bit. Because this guy, I really liked his chin. So many wrinkles happening right in here. Uh, an ad has just popped up. So as soon as this ad goes away, I'll be able to, there it is. Look at this guy's chin. Well, for some reason, it doesn't want me to make it any bigger. So that's the biggest I can get that image. But I see lots of great wrinkles and stuff happening. So I'm going to flip now to the sculpt. I'm looking at the bottom lip. My bottom lip actually juts out quite a bit. So you can see it sticks out. That's not happening over there, and that's not a scary thing. So I am going to tone this lip down by shaving off the pieces that jut out. And I'm going to use my rake tool that has teeth. Looks kind of like a hacksaw blade. It probably was a hacksaw blade. I'm just going to calm this down by taking away the bit that juts out. I'm going to replace that open lip, that floppy lip, with a tighter but more wrinkled lip. Riveting stuff I know. And if any of you guys who are on with me want to pop on or ask questions, feel free. And if you don't want to, I also understand. We have a whopping 7 viewers on YouTube, which way more than I expected. But if any of you guys want to look at the questions on YouTube and tell me what they are, that might be helpful. All right, so you can see I put a bunch of scratches in this down here, and I'm going to go ahead and smooth that out just so I can see what I'm working with and have a flat, smooth texture to put those wrinkles in. I think that actually, that right there alone really helped make his mouth a little scarier, a little bit meaner, because it has, you know, there's not this floppy lip. There's some tension in there now. Because this is his mouth is open. I mean, there's a substantial gap between his teeth, top and bottom. So his mouth is open. His mouth, when your mouth is closed, that's when you have the most lip to work with. You know, work your bottom lip around while your mouth is closed. You can do a lot with it. Open your mouth up, it's harder to move your lip around. So I need to show that there's less lip because his mouth is open. And this guy also has, on the corners of his mouth that comes down, and there's just great creases and wrinkles on the corner of his mouth. So I'm going to pull down from here on the bottom of his mouth and make some of those wrinkles and creases. I have a little bit going on this side already, right here. But seeing that picture has made me less afraid to go even a little further with it, go a little crazy, you know, bring it all the way down, give it some power. Then I am pulling in from the side. I can see that happens here. There's definitely a cleft in his lip. And I'm going exaggerated right now. I know it's going to smooth out. There's a cut across the chin. These are the biggies. You know, there's a cut across the chin right here. And I need to smooth that out a little bit just by knocking off the edges of that trench. And this is just a wrinkled mess on him in here, so I'm not going to do too much of that. I'm just going to drag my tool through there to show its unevenness. Okay. Now I'll use my medium size and firmness of brush, calming down those wrinkles. This is really not a terribly interesting way to watch, because they're such small diminutive changes, but they add to the realism. They make you believe that what you're seeing is a jaw. They make you believe that what you're seeing is a lip and a chin. It'll tell you if this guy has age. It'll tell you that if he has tension in him. And that's all things that I'm really trying to convey, because this is a haunted house character. The more you can learn in looking at him in a second, the less work the actor has to do. I kind of figured out that I am a haunted house guy first and a sculptor second. Everything kind of pops on with, everything is in the haunted house realm to me. I always think about it as a haunted house. Or will it work as a mask? All right, so those are on there, but pretty dramatic. And I'm going to calm that down a little bit more, a little more hand lotion. So all this gets to be a little more subtle. Because these really aren't the fine lines yet. These are just the lines that help show the forms. And there'll be little lines around those. Okay. Somebody said howdy to me. I think it was Philip. Howdy. I see that Ian has popped on. Hello, Ian. All right, so I'm looking this guy over, and I'm looking for areas that I don't like. Any little thing. I'm trying to nitpick right now. I am trying to find things that are wrong with this, that stand out and make it look less believable. I am going to add a little bit of clay. This really tucks in and deep here. Now I know when I make a mask out of this, that's going to poke someone's eye. I guess it does resemble an angry Bart Butler. I can see that. Yeah, he has good brow ridges, and I think from here up I can see that pretty good. My finger's too fat to get back in there, so I'm gonna put a little bit of clay on the end of my brush and jab it in. Once I get it in there to stay, I can smooth it around. But basically, when I mold this, that hole is going to become a jut out of plaster. And when that jut out breaks off, I don't know how much detail it's going to take with it. It might break off the perfect amount, or it might take part of this eye bag with it. So I really want to mitigate that jut out of plaster so that it is less and is less likely to break off. While I'm working on the sculpt, I'm thinking about the mold. And that's going to make my life a little easier. Now, granted, that will also limit me artistically just a little bit because I am thinking about the mold. So I'm going to end up making different choices than if I wasn't. And that's going to, that's a little bit of a constriction on me. I can live with that because I'm the guy who has to mold it most of the time. Sometimes now I can get other people to mold stuff for me. All right, so I filled in those eyes, so I'm happy with them, but it looks like I mashed clay in there. So now I have to go in. I'm going to use a silicone tips tool and just smooth that out. It's so dark up in here, I know you guys won't see it, so I'm not even going to try and move the camera. My apologies, crappy host, but the silicone tip tools are really nice because they allow me to smooth it out without it necessarily looking like a tool mark. Looking back at this picture of this old guy, and I'm looking under this eye and under this eye. And I want my eye bags, that stretchy, fleshy, doughy area under the eyes, to feel that way. That's where I don't want tension. That's where I don't want there to be a lot of stress. So I'm trying to figure out how to get this texture. I think I can do it by just carving a couple good lines in to the bags that I have. And just, I want that skin to feel loose. I want it to feel that it has some spring to it, some elasticity, that you can just grab his eyelid and pull it and go, which would suck, but I want you to think you can do it. That gives me a chance to define that eye ridge a little better. All right, so that's that. And now I can hit it with a little bit more hand lotion. I now have a lot more texture going on in here, and I like that a lot better. I'm going to do a little bit of the same over on this side, but I want it to look different because these eyes are different. Different things are happening. So this one's going to be more lines this direction, not the up and down jabs so much. All right, so I've done a pretty good job actually on this one of making these ridges of skin. And let me those are really sharp ridges right now. And I'm going to tone those down, and I want those to become folds. So softest brush I have, normally that means long bristles. I'm going to go with the cuts because I don't want to do too much to decrease those ridges, but I do want to smooth them out and get those tool marks out of there. See that detail and that stretchiness now that looks in there? I'm pretty happy with that. So I'll pull out and see. Now I'm at the point in the sculpt where I am doing some laser focus on one little area. I'm really happy with it in general, but I'll laser focus on this eye bag and I'll get it where I want it. And then I'll laser focus on the upper lip. I'll get it where I want it. And I'm going to do that next, actually. The upper lip is a good form, but there's no detail. There's no lines in it. No wrinkles, no texture, no pores. So I'm just going to take my sharpest loop tool, and I'm figuring that out right now, which one it is. And this one is a little bit sharper. That point is sharper than this point. So I'm going to use this loop tool to carve in these lines. And I'm looking at my YouTube. I'm looking at my Google image search, and then I'm going over here to the sculpt. And I don't want all of these to be the same length. I don't want them to all be the same depth. I want them to each kind of be different. They're all doing the same job. They're all showing, dry, cracked skin, but they also, they don't all happen even. I don't want it to be symmetrical. I also don't want them to be so deep that they turn the top lip into like a saw blade, with where there's actual teeth in there as opposed to lines or creases or wrinkles. I work at a kick butt haunted house. It's my year-round job. It's all that I do. I love it. I am the director of it. What that means is that I don't always get to do the sculpting. It's one of my favorite things in the world, and I don't always get to do it. All right, so I have layer 1 of these wrinkles in the lip. So I'm going to try and find another tool now to knock them down because the hand lotion gives you a wet knockdown. So Ian, you typed in a question, and I I didn't see the question. I just saw you talk. If you could type it in again, I'll look for it. Unless I've already answered it. I've already answered it. Great. All right. So what I'm grabbing. This sculpt is a half mask. It's going to be actually, I guess I'll let the cat out of the bag to the 7 people who are watching this. I'm doing a line of half masks at Transworld. I'm going to have them in my booth. I don't think there's enough latex mask at the show anymore, so I'm going to do about 13 or 14 different mask styles that are just good-fitting latex half masks that for actors, so actors can wear and be scary. So I'm doing stuff that I won't normally do. Like I don't do a lot of clown stuff, but I'm certainly going to have this character here will be painted as a clown or as an inmate. You know, he has 2 options. So that's line 1. And I have knocked them down, their edges down with a brush. This is kind of, you know, an erosion of those corners. If I knock them down with more hand lotion, it would look a little bit wet. It would be like a round river rock. I don't want river rock. I want windswept. You know, I want dragged across because this is a dry area of the face. Now I'm putting in just smaller lines. And the small lines aren't as long. And there's not going to be a lot left of them when I brush them out, but them being there makes a lot of difference. Okay. Another round of finer lines, and once again, brushing them out. I'm going with those lines. I'm not brushing across. I don't want to fill them in. I'm going with them. Okay. Guess I'll take the camera off and let you guys see what that looks like up close. That's a fairly nice dry lip. And I can just keep brushing and keep brushing to make those more subtle, more subtle. And on the bottom, I've only done round 1. You know, this is round 1, and this is 2 rounds of lines. Could I go 1 more? Probably. Will I? Probably not, because I like sleeping. I really want to get this guy done today. But I'm going to go ahead and do that next round of lines in that bottom lip. And I don't want the little, because every time you drag the loop tool across, it leaves a little blob of clay. And I really want to get that blob of clay off. I don't want it to sit on the sculpt, or else I'll brush it in, and then it'll become an unwanted texture. And some of these lines in the chin here. These are not straight lines. These are more squiggles. I'm going to tone them down a lot. I'm going to tone down my lip lines. This guy's still kind of giving me problems. I don't like the roundness of this. It's very round right here, so I'm just flattening it out a little bit with my rake tool. I worked on it earlier in the sculpt, but I wasn't terribly thrilled with it. Okay. And for those kind of scratch marks with the rake, this brush is not going to cut it. So I need lotion. And I'm going over here to my hand lotion. But now all those rake marks just go away. Now if I did that to my lip scratches, they would also go away. So I'm avoiding that. And while I'm looking at you guys, I'm just keep looking over at the reference picture here too. I want to pick more things out of this old man that I like and that I can use. But I think it's time for me to do some lines, just contouring the face and down these wrinkles down this side here. Just etch in some lines and I'll brush them out. I'm going to go to my slightly larger loop tool. This one's still pretty small. I'm going to steady my hand because I want these lines pretty straight. And these are maybe a quarter to an eighth of an inch long. This is just going to break up the skin from looking too flat, too smooth, too perfect. I want to be careful not to make them symmetrical. I really want them to exist, not have a pattern. Patterns are very easy to recognize and easy to fall into. And I don't want to fall into a pattern doing them. All right, so that is a decent amount of that texture on that side of the face. I'm going to try and knock that down with a dry brush because I think that'll get me what I want. If I have to, I can always go to the wet because that's more extreme. And I think to avoid them from looking like lines that I carved in as opposed to wrinkles, I do have to go with some hand lotion. And I'm only going to see pieces of them. I'm only going to see bits and pieces of these lines that I carved in because some of those are going to go away. But I put on too much. I'm going to calm it down. I knew I was going to put on too much. That was part of my plan. And now I actually have a decent skin texture. I'm also just going to pull a few little pits out. Are these nicks? Are they scars?
Hey, Alan, you got muted somehow, man. None of us can hear you.
Did I fix it?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Great. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you letting me know. But anyway, I switched tools, and I'm making longer lines uh, because I think that might read a little better, and it might not go away as quick when I brush them out. So the end of this tool is important. Um, that shape, that kind of spear shape, that's going to make a groove in it that opens up both sides. If this were a square tip, there's no way I could make that look like a wrinkle when I was done. But because it is not a square tip, I have a chance of blending this out right and really making that feel like it's a wrinkle in skin, as opposed to that I drag a line through it. If you ever hear me talk about tool marks in a sculpt, these are definitely tool marks. I've just drug a line through them. That's all I've done. They're not wrinkles at this point. If I just brush them and knock off the fuzz, helps a little, but not a lot. You really have to get into them. One way of doing it, how I used to have to do it, was each one I'd pop in and I'd break that trench line with the little loop tool. Then when I smooth that out, that was more wrinkle-like. That way sucks. It just takes a long time. So now what I normally do is I will brush this out with lotion. So I'll brush it out. Now, and you don't have to use hand lotion. You can use baby powder. I use hand lotion, and sometimes I'll also use baby powder. I might let the sculpt go for a day and then come back with baby powder. Yeah, these lines I think are going to do more of what I want because the lotion is making them a lot less noticeable, but they're still there. Whereas my other lines kind of went away. I used too narrow of a tool. And this is so much as doing work and then making it almost go away. That's a lot of what sculpting is. See how much more subtle these are than those? Those are my tool marks that I haven't messed with. And this is those wrinkles. So now I've got this great, almost braided looking surface. And I'm going to fix these guys right now. Just calm them down. Okay. I don't want to do that surface on a lot of other places. You know, it might be work on this. I might do a couple veins. I might do a couple of veins over here on the temple, and I'm going to use my clay tool for that, my extruder. I use these for a lot of things, but basically it's a kind of a Play-Doh, silly putty Play-Doh factory toy. Where it's a big syringe. You put clay in it and you squeeze it out into different shapes that you want. But this time I'm going to have it make ropes for me that I can turn into veins. Bleh. Bleh. And I've got other tips I can put in. Um, yeah, absolutely. Any syringe, anything that's strong enough that I can squeeze out clay through it, yeah, would work good. Um, this is actually a real thick one, and I'm going to put it on. And then once again, most of this is going to go away. But that's how thick I put it on. I mean, this is 1/4 inch round rope. Um, I'm going to use my spatula tool and every edge blend into the sculpt because I want the vein to look like it's under the skin. And by pushing it down like this, it seems more like a well up from underneath than it does laying on top, which is what I want. Here we go. So all I have done now is I've gone around the edges of that worm that I put on there, and I smooth them in. So now it's really blocky. See you later. Have a good one. And the rest is going to go on YouTube, so yeah, you can see the rest of it. And that's real rough. There's a lot of scrape marks in there. But once I go over it with a little bit of lotion, those are going to smooth out quite a bit. And they'll look a little bit like veins that are under the skin. And I'm going to calm them down even more. But that is a starting point. All right. Kind of a hard time. Whoa! Dropped you. My apologies. Hope no one out there gets motion sick. Now I can calm this down further with a loop tool. I'm just going to use a round loop tool. I'm going to take a little bit of this middle piece where this bend is and almost take it away to nothing. So it looks like the vein dives down into the skin a little bit deeper there. That's what we're doing. We're showing depth. I'm showing difference. Where it ends, it really has to dive down into the skin. So I want to make that a nice long taper up onto that wormy tube thing. I'm just going down, taking it off, paring it down, paring it down. A little more hand lotion. While I'm on this side, I want to add one of those veins to the neck. Look, I happen to have a clay lump up here. Just hold it in place. I mash it down with my fingers. But now I'll go back with this tool. And this one's probably not it's not addressed enough yet. You can really see how that's a lump on there, and I'm going to calm it down. But I'm going to go ahead and start another one because my eyes will tell me that that was not done. I'm not going to forget it. But the neck is a great spot for veins. Up here in the temple is a great spot for veins. Made a real tight fold there, so it's kind of hard to get the tool in to mash it down. I'm just going to take a little more of that with me. I'm not scared to mess it up. It's only mud. That's all clay is. Stage one, put down a little more hand lotion here. Brush that out. So hopefully you guys can still hear me. The camera's a little bit far away at this point, but this way you guys can be right by this neck vein and just see the difference and the progress. Using that round wire loop tool and just taking away, knocking it down. One more time, I'm just knocking it down. All that crud that comes off, I want to pull away. I don't want it messing up my sculpt. You want subtle. You want just enough there to tell the story. All right, now that looks a little more like a vein under the neck that's kind of swollen. A little swollen, a little bulging. Nice. Go back with my wire loop. Calm that down a little bit more. I'm going to use the slightly easier, lighter brush. So I don't want to obliterate it. I just got to calm it down. It was screaming at you. I don't want it screaming at me. I want it to say, hey, I'm here. Now, honestly, that vein's a little bit heavy-handed. it could use some more refining and knocking down. Maybe I'll get back to it, maybe I won't. But I want to put just a little bit on the other side too. It's about passes. I want to get things into focus, slowly. Yes, I can hyper focus on one area now, but I still don't want one area way more defined than the rest. Just see a little bit here that needs to smooth out. My eye forms that I put on, I didn't blend that back edge because I couldn't see them very well last time. But now I just fixed that. I got to reload my tool here. You get a bunch of clay stuck up in there, and I don't want hard clay on my shiny new sculpt. Bah. All right. So this is the kind of sculpting that I can leave my wedding ring on for. For all the big stuff, when my hands are in the clay, I got to take that off. And there's always a risk that I won't know where I put it. When I did the Bigfoot sculpt a while back, you can probably see that video on YouTube, but when I did that sculpt, I took my wedding ring off, and I had to go back and watch the video to see where I left my ring. And it helped me find it. All right, this is a handy dandy vein maker. And if you want to see real good work with, I don't even know if he uses one of these, but David Mosher does some sculpts. He does the head forms that I like to use quite a bit. He does some sculpts with some amazing veining and just sinew type work, which are phenomenal. And just like one whole side of the face is just loaded with these. And I think that's just lots of detail and dedication. They're a little heavy-handed, but they're zombies, so they look great, and it all works together. It seems like the more squiggles in a vein, the better it looks. So, all right, I didn't leave enough to do any on the neck, but I'll do another bit for the neck. So, tool, very unsubtle. I'm just going around and flattening out that edge. Second verse, same as the first. This is where having a left hand that you can do some stuff with is good. I don't think I can quite call myself full true ambidextrous, but I can use it for some detail stuff. I think my left hand's actually stronger than my right, but you use the right all the time. Yeah, and while I'm doing this, I'm making sure I don't mess up the ear, That'd be real easy to do. It's just lay your tool in somewhere else where you don't want it. All right, big brush. Trying to take all those scrapey tool marks off the side. Blending that down. Okay. Wide loop. Make it relax. I'm really watching on my screen the shadows. I'm watching where these deep shadow lines are. The shadows tell me that the line above it is too high. You know, there's just too much of that. So that's how I'm taking my cues as far as what to pare down. And here, while I'm taking away a bit of the vein, I'm following this line that comes off the eye. I'm cutting that in just a little bit too. And it seems like I'm taking a lot away. It seems like there might be nothing left of this, but there is enough to tell people that there's a vein in there and that this guy is, his heart rate is accelerated. He's excited to be here. All right, I've done a lot of tool work to get that knocked down. I'm going to brush it out again. Switching to the smaller brush because now it's more detail, it's more subtle. I don't need to knock big edges off now. I got to knock off little edges. All right, so this big spot right here, I don't like. I'm going to knock it off, knock it down a lot more. I just felt like it was competing with the eye wrinkles too much. All right, so I got some left I can take off. I'm going to do it. So light is what I'm really sculpting. I'm sculpting with light and shadow. I'm watching my shadows, I'm watching my light, and I want to catch light more than I want, you know, to really focus on the shadows. Because shadows, they tell you it's deeper, but they don't give you a measure of depth. But the highlight on something, that'll tell you how raised it is, how high it is. All right, that's a pretty nice, fairly subtle vein under that skin. I'm telling a story, you know. I want people to see that and know that, oh wow, this guy is amped up. He's excited to be here. He cray cray. All right. Let's do another vein on this side of the neck. And now on the last side of the neck, I didn't do a fork in the vein. It was only one squiggly line. And that doesn't always read like vein. So I'm going to make sure that this time I do have a fork in it. And there's this sculpt is moving along. There's not much happening at a high rate of speed. We're in detail work. It's kind of like the first hour of the sculpt. You're framing a house. You know, you drive by where they're building a house, and you see, wow, man, they got a lot of work done because the whole frame of the house got up today. Well, when they start doing the plumbing and electrical work that you can't see, it doesn't seem like they're getting as much done. Wow, I just shot a piece of clay across the room. That was awesome. But I digress. Okay, there we go. All right. That is plenty of vein for the neck. I don't have a lot going on the neck because I figure that costume is going to hide some of that. Once again, I'm thinking haunted house. I'm not thinking this is a sculpture for sculpture's sake. I have a use for this. I have a plan. I have not come up with a better way to do veins yet. If you are a sculptor and you are watching and you do know a better way, tell me. Or be a jerk. That's fine too. You don't have to tell me. So my prediction for this video on YouTube, I'll probably have a record number of thumbs down because of how boring it is. And I will probably have a number of comments like, this sucked, this was slow, 2 hours of my life wasted. Well, mine too, buddy, mine too. But these details matter. Could I have molded it before? Yes. Would it have been as good? No. And you don't see a ton of difference between a 2-hour sculpt and a 6-hour sculpt. But the differences that you do see make or break it. All right, that vein is pretty well mushed down. Big brush. Drink of water. Spritz of water so it'll dry out on me while I'm working. I saw a question flash up. I couldn't tell who from or what it was. My apologies. You could type it in again. I'll answer it. Maybe it was a statement. Gotcha. Screw them. There's always time for screw them. Kind of one of my favorite attitudes. I had a boss, and his way of saying screw them used to be fuck them, feed them chili. I didn't really get what that meant, but it amused me. Don't know if that referred to a particular time in his life, but it was certainly memorable. Now, if I were really good, and I'm not that good, if I were really good, I would have actually gone to my Google image search again, and I would have done an anatomy search to see where those veins would have ran. I know that they run along the neck a lot. I know that they pop up at the temple a lot, but I don't know what the name of those veins are. That's not what I look at. So I probably should have Google image searched that, but at least I'm being nice and telling you that I didn't do it. Okay. So now I'm looking. I've got some good stuff happening. Maybe I could make a little more happen up in here, right between the nose, between the eyes. Maybe not. Let me. I'm gonna image search angry face. You know. If I Google image search angry face, I might get some results that show me good nose wrinkling. Let's go with Jackie Chan. How can you go wrong with Jackie Chan? So I'm looking at what's happening in here, and I really like that whole fold right there between the eyes. So I'm going to go ahead and make that happen right here. There are support wrinkles under it, which are not as strong, but they're there. And they, not being as strong, make that one look deeper. So I want to go with my weakest brush, longest bristles. Brush that in. Okay, that's good. I like that better. This is the wrinkles that I just added, that little set right there. I think that's nice. You know, that actually helps support that this brow is heavy as it pushes down. This brow pushes down and causes this wrinkling here. That's nice. Okay. That area was a touch lackluster, so I touched it. I'm going to look for other areas that just need that little push. Okay. What I see now is areas that feel unfinished because they are unfinished. If I go back here, this still has drag marks in it and stuff, so I'm going to run over that with a kidney tool. This is a flexible rubber, and then it'll kind of conform and just help me smooth out and polish this top of the head a little bit. You can only do this with clay that's really dry. We're spraying an oil-based clay, but this is a pretty dry clay that's on here now, or else this would be, I'd be leaving big gouge marks in it if it wasn't that dry. But top of the head I'll leave nice and smooth. I'm pretty sure that there's going to be a wig or something glued up onto here. Maybe it'll be not a wig, but it might be, you know, just some hair that comes down over the front. Maybe a hood comes up over this. But I want to smooth out up here. Nice dry brush. I'm using this brush to get those the few drag marks I made out and get a nice polished top of head. Now it's looking more and more like Bart Butler. All right, but now that I've done that, there's like this continental shelf that happened because I have some texture up to here, and then it just stops. So what I want to do is I want to carve in some texture lines, and then I will brush them out so it gets softer and softer towards the back. Now, do forehead wrinkles go back up here this high? No. But I'm showing just something is happening up here. I don't want it so barren that it stands out. Maybe this one's a scar. It just kind of runs this way across the head. You know, something happened right there. That's an issue. And you know, detail's a way to tell a story. You know, have they been burned? How you know what has happened to them? Your skin tells you what happened. Look at my hands. You might guess I used to be an alligator wrestler. You might guess that I broke my hand here recently, and there's a big lump right there. But your skin tells that story. All right. So now there's something here. It doesn't just die. You know, your texture. Let's pull this sucker down. All right, we have a staggering 11 viewers. Pretty crazy because so little is happening. And right now I'm using the camera to look at it. I'm looking at the shadows and the lights. I like what's happening here. I think just a little bit. This might be too much. This might be verging on cartoony, how much it goes over top of the other one. So I'm going to calm this ridge and royal down a little bit. I like the form of it, but it's not refined yet. This is too in your face. It's cartoony, you know. It's almost like the '80s metal cartoons, like the Iron Maiden logo. Looks a little, you know, it's a little Eddie-like in its cartoony proportion. So I can calm this down. I'll still get that exaggerated look and emotion that I wanted, but it'll be a little more believable. Nice dry brush. Get those little bubbles I just made off. Okay. And now you can still see some of the rake marks in there. And I'll have to calm those down. And I can calm those down a couple ways. I can just drag across them with the loop tool, which leave different marks. And then rub them out. Now that that is devoid of any texture, it looks really weird. So I'm going to put back in just some of these fun lines. I'm going to let these cross a little bit. I'm going to let these kind of not know what they're doing. Dry brush. All right, I think that reads pretty good. I think that got calmed down nicely. I'm once again once and over this sculpt. I'm looking for little areas that need some love. This right here, there's a little hole right in here that I can. Going back to this. I said I might go back to it. Well, it caught my eye that it was just a little stronger than it needed to be. Just enough that a dry brush will take that out. I was digging for this guy, which is just one of those same 1-inch brushes, but it's been cut down. So it will actually put in a real fine pore texture. Right over top of all these little wrinkles, but they're going to show through. You guys see that pore texture? All right, what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to do that pore texture over the whole thing, because that is what I kind of have a habit of doing. So, but I am going to put it just in these same areas on both sides. It's going to be a nice grippy surface for the plaster to grab. These bristles are also strong enough. I'm going to drag them across the lip, and they will make their own teeny tiny scratch marks. Remember I did like phase 1 scratch marks, then I went and did phase 2 scratch marks? Well, this brush is going to be, you know, another stage of scratches. And those are really fine, and I don't think you can see them, but they are there, and they will make a difference to the eye of the viewer. Okay. While I'm looking at this, the chin wrinkles look a little bit phoned in. You know, they're not, I didn't spend any time defining them, so I do want to take some time. I'll drop this tripod down. All right, drop the tripod down. You guys can see the chin a little bit better. I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do with this. So I'm going to look at another chin. I said that one guy's chin was great, but I couldn't figure out how. So the fault in that was in me. I couldn't figure out how to make that chin happen. I'm putting in chin texture. Let's see what images I get. That's it looks like a walnut almost. It looks a lot of wrinkles right here on that part of the chin. I don't like that. Okay. Looking at that one, that's pretty good. I'm kind of studying intently. All right, I need to add a little bit of fat back into this. This is kind of like a peach pit, and I don't want a peach pit. So I added fat by adding those blobs of flesh. I'm going to do that again. But I'm not going to make them circles. I'm going to go with little footballs down here now. All right, just me and you now. As far as being on the air, I guess. But hey, there's 10 people watching on YouTube. That's more than I thought. A little crazy. And I'm hoping I can blend these little football shapes in and get enough definition out of them to be happy with this chin. Because it's the only piece I think that needs work. This guy's pretty detailed. I'm happy. I feel that he is the best of my ability for the time allotted. And as I say that, I of course see just this one little line right here that I think looks a little tool marky, so I'm just going to go over it and calm it down. If it's screaming at you, you want it to say, back the hell up, relax. All right. Now, big brush, big texture, getting this chin stuff to blend in. Okay, I can feel that. Kind of this lump is a little lumpy. It's going to have to relax a bit. Camera off my leg, so I quit shaking it. Adding a little texture onto there for me to brush out. And I'm just taking my finger and I'm smoothing these football shapes out, which are now really amorphous blobs. because while I want them there, I want them subtle. All right, I feel better about that chin. I feel pretty good about it, actually. Checking my jawline. The jawline needs to be pretty straight in order to read as strong. I like how nice and level that jawline is, at least from the jawbone to the chin. That gives the illusion of strength. If this were bowed or bowed, then it would look less strong. It would look weak, and I don't want that. I'm checking my face for angularity, and I want angularity. I want that to read as a little famished. I want it to be a little bit hungry. Angles are scary. You want someone to throw a frisbee at you, or you want to throw a triangle at you. Triangle's got 3 points on it. That sucks. Malnourished, very good word. 2 Scrabble points. I'm just kind of looking and feeling. I'm going to actually switch sides of you so that you guys get a different view. You've kind of been staring at one side of the sculpt the whole time, and this is the other side of the sculpt. This side is not as malnourished, but I have all this nice texture here, and I really like that. I got a bit of chubbiness right here. This is a bit round. See this? That doesn't feel angry to me. It borders on chipmunky. And while that's a form, now's the time I want to change it. I don't want to leave it and then mold it and think, oh, it could be perfect, but it wasn't because I rushed it. I've actually had quite a few issues with this area over here. So this is where I worked on this line. This is where I worked on that other line. Okay, this is pretty drastic for this late in the game, but I feel it just fixed a lot of issues that I was having. Okay. I'm going to use a drier brush to just get some of that lotion off of there. Now I'll go back in and put in more texture that I just messed up. Okay, that is very liney, but I'm going to take my medium brush and I'll go in here and I'll calm this down. Okay, I got my short brush. I'm going to pop in here. I'm going to do some stabbing. And I'm doing a lot of that brush pore texture with this. But I'm going to calm it down. So while I'm doing it right now, I'm about to go in and brush that out even. And I should be left with just some of my lines, but I've taken the edge off of it with that pore texture. You should, if you're using a new brush, make sure you try and work the bristles out so they don't come out on you as a surprise. It sucks trying to clean them off of a sculpt. Okay, I'm looking at this guy head on now. I don't have that chubbiness. I don't have that chipmunk look. He is much more streamlined and angular on both sides. And I am happy. So gang, I'm going to call this guy done. Glad you like it. I think that I can turn him into a nice clown with paint and hair. I think that he will make a fine inmate or convict. If I paint him up dried, brown, and withered, then I think, and puts like some burlap over him, he'd make a nice scarecrow. So it's a sculpt that is sort of multi-purpose. If I sculpt the big clown nose on it, yeah, good convict, good asylum, inmate, absolutely. All right, looking at it, happy. I'm going to put this guy to bed. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll watch this video if people like it, if they thumbs up it. I know it's a lot of stuff that was hard to see, but hopefully I talked through the process enough where it's worth it to you. If I leave it up and you like it, subscribe, all that stuff. Thanks for watching. Bye.